What's going on, YouTube and Facebook Live? I'm sharing. I'm actually streaming to my personal page, my Facebook or my Facebook on another line, and my YouTube on another line. What's up, Mr. Tennessee Bassmaster? Appreciate the support, man. After this short intro, we're going to get right into talking about our trip to Chickamauga and a few of the things we got going on. So without further ado, let's get after it.
Gotta get your arms way up in a cast and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's right up at you like what you feel. Step on the deck and give it a whirl. Hello and welcome to my world.
What's going on, everybody? Larry Slack in the house. What's up, brother? What's up, Andrew? Lake Mary in Florida. That's pretty cool. Hope you're out there leaning on them. But anyway, guys, just got back from a trip to Lake Chickamauga in Dayton, Tennessee. Kyle and I did. It's been a pretty crazy trip. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about some baits and things that I felt were crucial to what little success that we had over that trip. I had a 4-day weekend over the President's Day weekend this past week due to parent-teacher conferences, and they give us a day off after that. But long story short, I had a 4-day weekend, so I wanted to go down to Chickamauga because I've been there a few times, and we've caught some decent fish. I've never, got into those big giant hammers that live in that place, guys. There's 12, 13, even 14-pound fish that live in there. They're the F1 strain, and they thrive in there, and there's some big fish caught. So we went down, left here on Friday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning and drove all the way throughout the night and got down there about 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning. Pulled up to the boat ramp. Boat ramp was, there's a few boats there, not a ton, probably 6 boats. We put in at Saudi Daisy there. And this is the first time I ever used that ramp. And we just pulled into the very first pocket that we saw and started throwing moving baits and ended up catching a few fish. What's up? Yeah, what's up, Brandon? So last time I checked yesterday, it looked like it was about 10 foot above winter pool, which is not bad. I mean, that's around summer pool level. It'll definitely be down to winter pool by the time we're there fishing in a couple weeks. I suck at building guitars too, man. So there's that. So anyway, we pulled up in the first pocket, and it was weird because we'd never been there before. But on the way down there, guys, the days before here in Ohio, we got to the point where we had the most rain that I've ever seen in my life, probably in a 24-hour period here. It was putting down the rain. Matter of fact, so much so that Thursday we actually shut down school early due to flooding and the thought that we couldn't get the students home on the bus routes and things. Here in lowland Ohio, where creeks flood all the time. But long story short, we drive down there, and I'm thinking that we got a ton of rain up here in Ohio, but I'm thinking Tennessee, being Dayton, Tennessee, 5.5 hours away from where we're going to be here, I didn't factor in that they probably got the same amount of rain. Well, they did get us pretty substantial amount of rain, but I don't think they got as much as we did. But they got more of it in a short period of time. And we pulled up into, I guess, it's kind of like the watershed area of Watts Bar, which is above Watts Bar, runs into Chickamauga. But when we got there, we started looking at some of the runoffs and stuff, and man, it was absolutely ripping. I'm talking 5 to 6 foot up out of the banks these creeks were, and just absolute ripping, nothing but chocolate milk water. Cold, muddy, tough. That is a saying that Kyle and I say because we said that one time in Grayson and sacked up 22 pounds on 5 fish. So that's just something we say when it's cold, muddy, and tough. 45 to 51 degree water temperature down there. Some of the baits that I saw that were really productive for us were the fish. So I think I caught 16 fish for the 2.5 days we were there, which is not great by any means, but I caught 16 fish. I couldn't have done that here. Average size was about 2 pounds, probably. We didn't lean on any giants, but the best thing about this is that I have gained a lot more confidence in throwing a swim bait. I've been throwing a swim bait since Lake St. Clair last year religiously because I have gained a lot more confidence again. When you guys have heard me time and time again talking about on this show, where I believe confidence is king. It doesn't matter what you're throwing or what you're actually believing in. If you have a bait that you believe is going to catch fish, you're going to fish it more effectively. You're going to fish it in and around more cover, and you're going to fish it better than any other bait because you have more confidence. What's up, Chris? What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining in. So that could have been a problem, man, because they were ripping water due to I'm sure it was due to the flooding. Like you could watch around we were up in a couple of cuts and that have like there were docks and stuff, which there's no docks around here in my area to fish, so we were just trying everything. Didn't figure that the fish would be in and around docks, but they were ripping water all this weekend, so that may be what shut them down. It's hard to say. What's up, Mark? Hey, buddy, how you doing? Yeah, so I've been throwing a lot of different baits. I'm going to show you guys one of my favorite ones right now. But one thing that I will tell you here is that I've grown really, really familiar with a lot of different swim bait heads, and not all swim bait heads are created equally. There's a lot of stuff that I have talked about when it comes to swim bait heads and stuff. But right now, one of my favorite ones is this right here. This is a Berkeley Fusion 19, and thanks to Tennessee Bassmaster down there, he told me that Walmart actually sells these things, and he is correct, which is amazing because you can't really find these things anymore. Made by Berkeley Fusion 19. These swim bait heads are really, really, really good. They come in a lot of different sizes as far as weights. I've been throwing the 1/2 ounce and 3/8 ounce a lot. A 1/2 ounce if I'm trying to get deeper. I threw that 1/2 ounce more than I did anything else at Chickamauga this weekend, and I just like these swim baits. I like the profile. The hook tie is really good. I really think these eyes are really cool, and they hold baits phenomenally well. With that being said, that was the best producing bait for us was a swim bait. I think I caught 12 of the 16 fish that I caught on a swim bait, and most of them were on this head. The difference is that when I fish with Kyle, obviously I can't have everything that's in my boat because he has a ton of stuff. If I packed everything in my boat into his, we'd probably sink it with all the stuff we have. So I have to pick and choose. Those of you guys that are co-anglers with other people, you'll know what I'm talking about. You have to pick and choose your arsenal because you can't have a pile of stuff with you all the time. But I took one pack of these swim bait heads in 3/8 and 1/2 ounce. And I was throwing these things in and around cover, knowing that I was going to get them hung up and I was going to break them off. And I did. I broke off 6 baits. There's 3 in a pack. I broke off all 3 of the 3/8, all 3 of the 1/2 ounce. Went to Real Deal Tackle there, which I think is Michael Neal's bait shop. Pretty sure it is there in Dayton, Tennessee. Bought some big bite bait swim bait heads, and the hooks are a lot bigger. And another thing that I can talk to you about these heads right here is that these come in 4/0 and 3/0 versions. It just depends on how big of the head you're going to be throwing. I normally always throw the 4/0, but these heads are a little bit more compact than the other, and I felt like the big bite bait heads were getting hung up more than anything. So these would be what I'd recommend if you're looking to get into the small, the swim bait area. I'm not talking about like mag draft area where it's 5 or 7 inch, 6 to 9 inch swim baits. I'm talking normal size swim baits anywhere from a 2.5 to a 5 inch. I'm totally comfortable throwing that with these heads. And my go-to swim bait right now is a Kitech Easy Shiner. I like it because they're a small profile. One thing I'll tell you about Kitech is I think it's the reason it has a really good action is the fact that they are really supple and they're really soft. I've been throwing these things a lot. I've been picking up this sight flash a lot right here. Again, it's just like a pearl white, but it has some glitter in it. I threw this thing in a 2.5, a 3.5. So if we go back and look here at Kitek's site, I throw a lot of different swim baits, but if you were to, there's so many of swim baits that they have here. If I choose the Easy Shiner, you can see here in just a second that they have these things from 2 inches all the way to 8 inches. I didn't realize that they made them this big until I started looking on their website because I need to order some more. Tackle Box has them. Borders has them. Real Deal Tackle in Dayton, I picked up a couple more packs when I was down there. They have these things as well. Kitek swim baits are really hard to beat, especially like this. I like these way better than those Swing Impacts. The Swing Impacts are another Kitek bait, which I'll show you in just a second, but they have like ridges or ripples on them. I just don't catch as many fish. I think the profile is too big. I don't think they have the action that they need. But again, anywhere from the 3 to 4 inch here. I've thrown the bigger 5-inch versions down at like Cumberland and things, and I've caught fish, but I really had no clue that they made these things in an 8-inch version. This makes me want to order some. An 8-inch Kitek Swing Impact, that thing has got to be an absolute monstrosity. You'd have to throw like a 8-aught hook on the thing, but I am going to order some. You bet your rear end. An 8-inch Sexy Shad, come on one time. That is awesome. Yeah, they used to be down there on the Dayton ramp, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Yeah, Mark. I do believe that they do really well. I don't super glue my heads personally. I know why you would do it, and I get that. I get it, but the Kitek baits, I don't feel like maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I should super glue and put it up on there. But the where Kitek baits are really soft and supple, you catch, especially if you're catching, really aggressive fish, and they're doing a lot of acrobats in the water, or under the water, or acrobatics under the water. They're going to rip those things up. That's the only downfall I can see about that. We were talking about True Bass swim baits on here a few weeks ago with Ryan Salzman. He claims that those hold on to the hook better. I don't know personally. I've never bought any of them. I feel like they're overpriced. Most of those swim baits are, $8 to $12 a piece plus shipping them from his website. And if you buy them online or down to like Real Deal Tackle, that's all they have. And they're still $8 or $9 a piece for a 4-pack. I feel like that's just way overpriced for what they are. But with those swim bait heads, I feel like it stays on there really well because of those ridges, but it also has that little wire keeper. It does a really good job. I feel like, though, just like in any other swim bait, once that thing comes off of there, you're going to have some super glue to actually put it back up on there. I would probably refrain from putting super glue on there initially, but if it was ripped off and you had that, instead of like biting the head off of that swim bait and putting it back on there, which never looks good or never looks the same to me, in my opinion, throw some super glue on there and you'll be happy with them. I think that they're really good because, if you look, you guys are not seeing this here, but a pack of 3 heads are $4.65 from Walmart. That's not a bad deal. Again, the 3/8. I do throw some of the chartreuse heads as well. I feel like the gray, the silver ones that they have, the white ones, and the chartreuse one, depending on the color of the water, would be where I would stay. 3/8 is probably my go-to unless I'm fishing really deep water. Then I would be looking at the 1/2 ounce. And 1/2 ounce is, I throw that a lot in the spring and definitely in or like spring and fall when I think the fish are going to be suspended deeper in the water column. Man, so you're not wrong. Down there, we were fishing. Matter of fact, I think very first time, guys. Short story here is very first time I ever went to Chick. I actually messaged Mark and I was like, "Hey, dude, I saw that you've been to Chick a few times. Put me on some spots." So he was telling me some spots, and he was telling me about this bank in Sell Creek. And I went there throughout one day, and I caught a bunch of fish on a jig. This has been 3 years ago. Actually, probably longer than that. 4 years ago. I think it was 2019. Misty and I went down, fished Richland Creek on his recommendation, went down to Sell Creek, fished those areas, and I caught a bunch of fish on a jig. Friday when we get there, oh man, I apologize. Friday when we get there, we go out and we put in at Saudi Creek, fish Saudi Creek for a while, caught a couple fish in there, went out to the main lake, and never really got bit. Brutal conditions, man. 33 degrees, wind was dripping like 20 plus mile an hour. Probably two to threes out on the main lake. We were fishing every tributary we could find. And well, it's probably 2 footers, not 3 footers. I'd say 2 footers with a swell. But Chickamauga is a weird place. If you've never been there in winter pool, it is really dangerous. Make sure you have a good map card. Make sure your base map on your graphs are really good, because you can be in 100 foot of water, or you can be in 10 foot of water, or you can be in 2 foot of water in less than 10 feet. It's crazy. But we're fishing, didn't find much. I think we got 6 fish total for that day before we got super cold and come off the water. Saturday comes around. We put in at Cell Creek because we heard that there was a 30-some boat tournament going out of Saudi, and I didn't feel like I wanted to deal with all those people coming in and out of there. So we went over and put in at Cell Creek, and we fished the bank back there by the bridge. And the very first thing I picked up was a 3/8 ounce black and blue mold or do-it mold jig that I poured myself on an 894, throwing this thing around like the third pitch into this rock. Like, that feels a little spongy. You set the hook, about a 2-pounder. I catch 2 or 3 other bass down that wall with this jig. And then that's when I picked up the swim bait initially, because I fished that bank with that jig. I caught a couple fish, didn't feel like fishing the jig again down that bank. So I started throwing that swim bait, and I caught double the amount of fish on that bait on that same bank. It was pretty crazy. So to answer your question, Mark, or to respond to your comment, they absolutely will eat a jig. Probably was 4 years ago, man. Last time I know, I was down there in 2020, which, yeah, so it would have been 4 years ago. Because Misty and I was down the last time I was at Chick, which is I was telling Kyle a story. What's up, Nate? Thanks for joining in, buddy. I was telling Kyle, it's kind of a funny story now, because it's like I feel like I'm telling this story post-apocalyptic mode here. So Kyle and I were talking, going down there. Misty and I, back when everything was shutting down during COVID, it was like mid-April. They were telling people that it was right when they were going to start putting the travel bans on. Right when I think everybody was quarantined, or right before everybody was quarantined. I made reservations to go down to Lake Chickamauga. And I always stay at a Holiday Inn Express right there in Dayton. It's a decent place to stay. It's really clean rooms. There's never a bunch of people staying there. They have connector. They have outlets outside for your boats, what have you. It's a great place for fishermen. It's about a mile from the Dayton boat ramp. So anyway, we get reservations to go down there, and we get down there on a Sunday, I believe, and we walk into the place, and there's a lady there that, that's checking us in or whatever. And I'll never forget it, man. It was one of those like weird moments. She was like, "Are you guys checking in?" We're like, "Yeah, that's what you do when you come to a hotel, I think." And she was like, "Oh, well, I just didn't know if you guys were serious about staying here or what." And it had me really weirded out. And I was like, should we not stay here? Is there something we don't know about? And this is the second time we've stayed there. And she's like, "No, it's fine." She said, "But you and I are the only ones here." I was like only ones here, like staying here. She's like, "No, I'm the only worker here, and you're the only people staying here." So she said, "You can have any room in this place you want, pretty much." So I was like, "Well, I just want to be able to see my boat outside." So she gives us like a big suite upstairs or whatever. But that was back when crazy times were happening, and we fished for 2 days and didn't smash them, but we caught some fish. I caught some fish on a swim bait that day. But knowing now what I knew then, I would have stayed all week. But it was back in the days when they were like canceling travel, and they were shutting down state lines or talking about it. And here I am in Tennessee, got to go through something like at least 3 states, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then back into Ohio, are 2 states. And we decided to call the trip earlier. I did. Misty wanted to stay. I'll give her credit for that because she wanted to stay. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't want to get trapped somewhere where I was going to have to spend hundreds of dollars a night to stay in a hotel room. Long story short, I will tell you this before we start talking about fishing again. The Holiday Inn Express, or the Holiday Inn there that I stay at, the reason I stay there is because, one, it's a really nice place, but two, they were very, very forgiving of during that time. So I booked it through an external site. I always book things through Expedia because I get points and travel rewards and things. Helps me out in the long run. But it does bite me in the rear end a lot of times because I tried to cancel the rest of the week stay, and I couldn't do that because it was booked through Expedia. So I just canceled on Expedia, which was, there was a fee and all kind of stuff. And they couldn't cancel my reservations through there because of that. Long story short, called Expedia, canceled my stuff on that end, got that money back. But they said that I would have to call the Holiday Inn there or whatever it is. I think I may be telling you. I think it's a Holiday Inn. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I cannot stop yawning. Anyway, I'm not going to look at it a ton here because I know I have it somewhere. But anyway, it's a hotel there. I'm pretty sure it's Holiday Inn. But anyway, we go there and I call the company up. It's like, hey, here's the deal. I'm really scared. You don't know what's going to happen. So I need to cancel this. If I need to pay for it, that's fine. I don't want to, but I will. They canceled it. And then we stayed down there for 2 days, 2.5 days. They ended up refunding my money for those 2 days as well, which I thought was crazy good. So that's the reason that I booked with those people. Anyway, caught a lot of fish on a swim bait, caught a few fish on a jig, 3/8 ounce, do it mold jig, black and blue. You know, if it's cold, muddy, that black and blue is going to find them up. I have been using, and Nate's on here, he can attest to this being a really good trailer. The NetBait Paca Slim 3.5 is a great trailer. It's a slim profile. It's really compact. You guys have seen it on my videos previously in the last few weeks. I use that as a trailer on the Blue Rock Custom triple threat jig. Phenomenal bait. It's all, you can pitch it, Texas rig or whatever, but I was throwing a 3/8 ounce do it football head jig that had a black and blue skirt on it. I was trimming the skirt down to allow that Paca Slim to come out of the skirt just a little bit. I was trying to keep my jig as compact as possible. And I will tell you, I think that was a key in the cold, muddy water because Kyle was throwing the exact same jig, a different style of jig. It wasn't a do-it mold, which is, it's a jig's a jig is a jig. I pour them with do-its because I enjoy making my own baits. If you buy, as Mark says, D&L jigs or whatever, if you're buying Blue Rock, $10.99, what have you. I feel like a jig is a jig is a jig, but profile means everything to me. And I like to keep my jigs as compact as possible. I just feel like I can get bit more. Oh, golly, man. I might be dying. I ain't never yawned this much in my life. Holy crap. Yeah, I agree, man. Like I said, first off, I'm not sponsored by American Bait Works, so I want you guys to know that they're not affiliated with the channel, but I do want you to understand that those things are great trailers. They're amazing. Black and blue, I really like that one. They make a ton of good collars. The Paca Slim 3.5, they make them bigger than that, but I always cut them down. I never put them on there as big because, again, I like the claws or the pinchers of the crawl bait to just come out of the jig a little bit. I hate it, man. And most people, I know some people will die on this mound that they think that crawdad or that crawl bait that you're using for a trailer should be seen as like a whole thing, and then that skirt be something else. Like the jig looks to me like when you're reeling it in, it's like this long in the water. And I just don't feel like that is very, very realistic. I don't know what's up with it. Everybody loves those things, but I won't throw a jig unless it's really compact. When I say compact, I might be throwing a 3/4 or 1 ounce jig, and that jig is big, right? The skirts are big, the head is big, but you won't see that crawl bait sticking out 1 inch or 2 inches past I just like that there's, it's just like that thing is poking its head or its claws out of that thing. And I feel like I get bit more than I would if I have those big baits and trailers. And it goes to show this weekend, Kyle was throwing a big bait. He was throwing big baits for big fish. You will always know that. If you're going to throw big baits, it takes a big fish normally to eat a big bait, or they're going to eat it more often than a small fish. It's just simplistic. It's the way the world works. Can a small fish eat a big bait? Absolutely. I've caught 12-inch fish on an 8-inch mag draft. It's just the way it happens. But you're going to get bigger bites with bigger baits, and that's the way Kyle's mentality was. And it proved to be detrimental to his fish catches, I think. Again, I caught 16 fish. He caught 5 for the weekend. He was throwing bigger profile baits. He was throwing bigger crankbaits. He was throwing bigger jigs. He was throwing big Texas rigs. He was throwing everything big, which I don't blame him. But I do think that my smaller version of that jig, the same jig he was throwing, caused me to catch more fish. Yeah, so like if I'm talking about like something that's like big and thick, I get that, but I just don't like. It's confidence, right? We talked about confidence. You hear me talking about all the time. Confidence is king, man. Whatever you feel like. But one thing I will tell you, I've been affiliated with Stormer for a better part of 10 years now, or give or take, probably 8 years. I fish two different rain suits. Sorry, if it's warm weather, I'm going to switch this up this year because I'm going to go strictly Stormer. But if it's cold weather, guys, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you right now that these things are not cheap. They're not. I don't claim that they are. I don't expect you guys to go out and buy one. I'm just going to tell you what I enjoy you fishing with, because it has been an absolute game changer for me in the days that I can fish. And that is a Stormer striker suit, which you see right here. A couple of things I'll talk to you about this before this thing was a game changer for me to be able to stay out on the water and actually fish the way I wanted to fish. We're talking 20-mile-per-hour winds. We're talking, for sub-freezing conditions. It was snowing. If you guys watched the video on my YouTube channel, there was literally a morning, which was Saturday morning. We showed up to the boat ramp, and Kyle's deck on his boat was frozen solid. We couldn't even get our rod lockers open. We were like ripping things. You could hear the carpet ripping. It was not a good day. We waited until the sun beat down on a little bit, and it finally did create it unthawed that stuff enough that we can actually get our stuff out. But this striker suit, the jacket is great. I love the jacket. But one thing that I'll tell you that I'll never go fishing without again are these bibs right here. And these are striker bibs. If you don't know anything about Stormer gear, Stormer has this is neoprene technology. This is just like the gloves that you would buy that's neoprene. But I don't want you to think about these as being your grandpa's neoprene gloves. We've all talked about it. You've all worn them. You could buy these things from Bass Pro and Cabela's for a long time, and I swear when you put them on your hands, it felt like they were just mitts, and you couldn't do anything with them. That's not the case with this thing. It has a dual zipper here on it has a fly zipper and a zipper that goes all the way down for those men, that may have to relieve thyself. One of the cool things that I really like about these bibs is that they have a zipper, and I don't know if you guys can see it here, but they zip. There's Velcro at the bottom, but they zip all the way up to the mid-thigh of these things to allow you to put boots on with these. They put a lot of effort and stuff into these things. Again, they're not cheap. I will not tell you that they are cheap. You can see right here, they're $353 for a set of bibs. But one thing I'm going to tell you is that these things kept me on the boat longer than they could have any other time. I do have two rain suits. I told you a second ago I have a Bass Pro 100-mile-per-hour suit that I've had for a better part of 10 years, and it has lasted and has been the absolute best investment that I've ever made. You will never catch me on a fishing boat without at least that suit. It beats down the wind. I wear it all the time. If it's not, if it's cold, I'm wearing some sort of rain suit to keep the wind off from me. If it's extremely cold, like 50 degrees, that's really not extremely cold, but 50 degrees all the way down into like -10, I'm wearing these things because, again, they do keep me that warm. Another thing, these things are, first off, don't take this for as a safety mechanism. Don't use these in lieu of a PFD. But these things are positively buoyant, which means, God forbid, you fall into some frigid water. Most other rain suits, including the 100 mile per hour that I have now, which I've just recently learned that they don't make anymore. I think they make them in guideware, which is like Johnny Morris's signature or whatever, and they don't look the same. But if you fall in with those things, a lot of times those things will fight against you and try to sink you in the water. Again, I wear my life jacket or my PFD if the boat's running, but 99% of the time, if I'm fishing, I don't have my life jacket on. If I fall into the water with these things on, again, they're positively buoyant. It's going to keep me afloat. And again, if you get tossed out of your boat at 70 miles an hour, this is not going to save your life like a PFD would. But if you fall into the water, this thing is going to float you a little better, and it's not going to fight you to drown you at the same time. Again, not cheap, not expecting you to go out to buy any, but that thing saved me. Their cast gloves are really cool too. What's up, Andrew? Their cast gloves are really cool. They have Kevlar on the finger, or the thumb and the finger on both gloves. So if you're casting a lot, that neoprene will get burnt up on normal neoprene gloves. These things do not. One thing I will tell you, if you buy some of the cast gloves, I'll just show you guys these really quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. There are, again, the gloves have neoprene, or they have Kevlar on them. Let me just pull this up really quick. So you can see here, these are the Stormer gloves. Again, these are the cast gloves. And the thing about these are, again, they do have Kevlar in them. And we are talking about the Kevlar here on the ends. These things actually have fingers on them that are covered in Kevlar. They are very, 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 very tight when you very first get them. What I would do if I were you is I would go and what I did was actually Josh Bryant, my cousin, gave me this idea. These things are really tight from the factory. If you get something that actually fits your hands right, those things are going to cut the circulation off from your fingers, just where they're sewn and stuff. I found a way around this. Go out and in your garage or whatever and find a socket big enough that will fit in there very tightly in those four fingers right there. Leave them overnight and then take the sockets out of them the next morning, and that will actually, it'll negate that. It's going to make those gloves a lot nicer. Hey, Andrew, no, they only, as far as I know, they used to carry, I think they have some Stormer stuff, but I'm not sure. I know they don't have the gloves there. I don't know if there's anybody that carries the gloves around here. Let me just look and see on their dealer locator here for you and see if there's anybody around this area. I'm going to guess probably not. This is a pretty niche product. It shows the tackle box as a dealer. They can order them for you. Let's just see. That's within 20 miles of here. 50 miles of here would be, let's see. Still just a tackle box for, let's look at 100 miles from here. Yeah, you got it. The tackle box. That's the only one that's on there. You might call Greg and see if he can order them for you. One thing I will tell you is hop on their website and measure your hands before that, because you're going to need to know how big your hands are, because there is a way to measure them. And I'll look on here for you to measure sizing charts here. Gloves. So you measure from the base of the palm to the tip of the middle finger. So you're going to be looking at basically here all the way to here. Measure that. I think I ordered larges. I think that's 7.5 to 8 inches. So it starts from 6 inches to 6.5, that's an extra small. 6.5 to 7 is a small. 7 to 7.5 is medium. 7.5 to 8 is large. 8 to 8.5 is extra large, and 8.5 plus is going to be extra large. So again, that is from the base of your palm to the tip of your middle finger. I ordered the large. They were really good. I really like them. They hold up really well. They have a really long cuff on them, so they go underneath your whatever hoodie or whatever you're wearing. I recommend their products 100%. Again, they are not cheap. I don't know that I could afford them if I wasn't affiliated with them. I do not get them for free. I'm still paying for them. But I don't know that I can afford them if I had to pay full price. But knowing what I know now, would I buy them at full price? Absolutely. If I had the money to spend, I would definitely look at Stormer. And they do have some stuff that's, that's not as cold weather stuff. But if you're looking for cold weather gear, Stormer is where it's at. We kind of, again, Saturday rolls around. We start catching some fish. Most of them come on a swim bait. Again, a 3.5 and a 4-inch. And I caught a couple fish on a 5-inch. Kitech with a 3/8 ounce head was the deal for me. I caught a lot of fish. We didn't smash them. We didn't do very good. I feel like catching 21 fish in 2.5 days is not that great for Chick. I want to thank Bradley Saunders. If he's out there watching, I appreciate the advice. I hit up Bradley for some spots down there. He was more than willing to share what he knows. Dude's an absolute hammer in any water hole that you put him in. I think he could probably catch a hammer with a mud hole. That's just how good of a fisherman he is. Quick story about Bradley is Bradley was fishing at Chick and was fishing down the same bank. And he was fishing one way, and then there was a boat coming at him, and it was a pro, and he was pre-fishing for a tournament. So Bradley went out around this guy and let the pro come by him and was fishing, and then Bradley, within earshot of him or seeing him, had passed him. Bradley ends up catching a 10-pounder on the bank that this guy had already fished. So it was a pretty cool story. But I asked Bradley, he gave me some spots. We went to all his hammer holes. We caught one fish on there. It was a tough weekend, guys. Post frontal, was like 65 degrees the week before, fairly decently. I think it was, it was averaging about 60 to 62 degrees the week before. We get down there, it's 33 degrees, cold front moving in, wind, cold, muddy water coming into this place. The highest we saw was 52 degrees, and that was in the back of Cell Creek. And that's the best we did. We fished all of that. Where we could find fish was 10 foot or less of water, and they were not stacked on any kind of bluff walls, man. We went to every bluff wall. Went into Possum Creek, that big bluff wall that you go in there. We fished a lot of stuff. The deeper stuff was no bueno. We didn't get bit anything deep. We tried, from 30 foot all the way up to 6 inches of water. And it seemed like more bites came from not bluff walls, but steeper banks, but they were in that 8 to 10 foot range. We couldn't get bit any deeper than that. It's just the way it was working for us. I think the biggest fish that we caught all weekend was the very last fish that I caught on the video when we were actually going to put the boat on the trailer. Some riprap there in Cell Creek, threw that easy shiner up in there on that riprap, got bit, probably a 3-pounder. That was easily the biggest fish we caught. Next biggest fish we caught was out on the main lake at the end of Cell Creek, right at the mouth of it, left of Cell Creek. And I caught it on a red-eye shad, which I talked to a lot of people down there. I had a lot of people that were down there weeks before, and they were telling me that the rattle trap bite was on fire. So I was throwing it a lot. Anyway, we did catch a few fish on a rattle trap, but it wasn't as on fire as it had been in the past. We caught a lot on, like I said, the biggest player was a swim bait for me. It was a good time. Like I said, we stayed down there and had a good time. We fished for 2.5 full days. One day we put right at 10 hours on the water. It was a decent day, probably 45, 50 degrees. It wasn't super warm. But we fished really hard. We ran out a bunch of fuel. We were from all the way down. We ran from Sail Creek all the way down, which is not a great deal of a run, but we ran all the way down by the power plant, fished around Skull Island. We fished everywhere around there and just could not put it together. We caught some fish. We probably had a limit of keepers if we were talking about 12 inches, but if it was up to that 15-inch mark, we probably caught 3 all weekend. Yeah, Mark. So we did find some grass. Matter of fact, there was a buddy of mine down there, Mike French, and he was down there, and he actually caught a hammer. I haven't seen pictures of it yet, but I trust him that he caught it. He said he was throwing a rattle trap in and around grass, a light trap, and was ripping it through the grass when he could find it, and caught one over 7 pounds, that's a hammer for anywhere. I would consider that a good fish for down there. But the grass where the water was so stained, we're talking like less than maybe a foot of visibility. It was really tough to even see any kind of grass. The only types of grass that you could find was what you were ripping up with a rattle trap or whatever. When we would find grass, we would really work those areas over. But throwing swim baits and jigs and those rattle traps and chatter baits, and whether that be a jackhammer or a slobber knocker or a regular Z-Man chatter bait, we did it all. We fished a lot of places down there. One thing that I will tell you is if you ever go to Lake Chickamauga, one thing that it'll do for you is it'll make you want a new job unless you make millions of dollars a year. There is some of the most beautiful houses on the planet on that lake. There is a new house that's built. I don't know if it's new, but it looks very new. Upriver from Sail Creek on the left-hand side of the river, there is a mansion there that I swear to goodness has to be probably on the low end of $10 million to build this thing, probably every bit of it. But I looked at that thing and I'm like, it's like the meme that you always see is like, how are you guys affording this stuff? What kind of mob are you running, or what kind of gang are you doing, or what are you selling, and how do I get involved with it? It's crazy, but it is amazing to see some of the giant houses in that area. So there's got to be some decent paying jobs in that area, or just people have a ton of money by getting it the old-fashioned way. They inherited it. But there's a lot of cool places down there. Dayton, Tennessee, though, I'm sure those of you guys that live down around that area or have been down that way, it's growing exponentially. Like, it's totally different than it was when we were down there 4 years ago. Misty and I, there's so much down there. When I was down there the first time, the only place to eat was like a Zaxby's chicken place, and now there's like all kind of crap. There's like a strip mall, and there's like 2 or 3 hotels down there now and stuff. So it's good for business down there as far as the lake turning on. So I don't regret the fishing trip at all. A couple of things coming up this week. I do have some On Another Line hats. I didn't sell them all at the tackle box the other day. I still have, I think, 5 of them left. I'm going to give a couple of them away. I'm going to do that via a like and share thing here on Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to give one away on Facebook, one on YouTube. That way it's fair. That way if you're not on Facebook and or on YouTube, or you can have the opportunity to win both, totally up to you. But it'll be out there soon. Go over and make sure you give my Facebook page a like at On Another Line, or you'll see it on my YouTube as well if you like either one of those. I'm going to be giving one of them away probably starting tomorrow some point. It's just going to be one of those deals where there'll be an opportunity for you to enter multiple times. If you win it, I'll ship it to you if you're not local for free on my dime, for the fact that you guys supporting me. I do have some pretty cool stuff. Those of you guys that bought hats from me at the tackle box or picked up some of my tungsten the other day, I appreciate this more than you'll ever know. So I appreciate it. We're in here about 45 minutes, guys, and I am tired of yawning in your face. Went to Chickamauga, had a good time, caught 21 bass in 3 days. It wasn't great, but I'm telling you what, if you're not throwing a Fusion 19 Berkeley swim bait head with a Kitech Easy Shiner, you're doing yourself a disservice. They have a ton of different colors, a ton of different stuff that you're going to make sure that you're throwing. I like the 3.5 all the way up to the 5-inch. I'm going to buy some of the 8-inch ones just to see if I can get bit on them, especially if I'm looking for big bites. So that being said, guys, make sure you get out there and lean on them if you can. If you haven't went out and subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it if you would do so. I am striving for 6,000 subscribers, and at this rate, I'm not going to hit it. It's not going to happen. Hey, Charlie, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining in. But again, at this point, I'm not going to reach 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year unless I do something stupid like wreck my bass boat or something. And I hope, knock on wood, that never happens. So I'm going to keep producing content for those of you guys out there that are supporting me and showing me love. I appreciate it. I appreciate it more than you will ever know. It means a lot to me. I did get my first win / sunburn over the weekend, so there's that. What's up, brother? Cool, man. Hope you're just dialing it in and not actually working on it. I do know from previous experience, though, if you bust a live scope cable, it can be soldered back together because I did it. And was it pretty? No. Did it work? Yes. So that's good. So if you ever bust one, you can. And I know, Charlie, you're a great maintenance guy because they call on you all the time. So if you need to solder it, you can do it. Take some time, but you can make it happen. I don't know what I'm going to need to do to get that 6,000 subscribers. I think I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to buy a dock demon. I'm going to get a Shimano Corrado DC, and I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to go flip docks at like Greenbow, the 2 docks that are there. And if I catch like a 20-pounder on a dock demon with a Corrado DC, that might get some views. Do not break a cable. It sucks. It wasn't even mine. I would love to have LiveScope. I'm kind of, again, if you guys are just not joining in, I do run Humminbird Electronics. No sponsorship. I've paid for them all. Yeah, $7,500 worth of graphs on my boat. In 2 of them, I have 2. And I feel like an idiot saying that. I have 2 Solix 15s on my boat, but I love the forward-facing sonar. I think if you don't have it, you're at a disservice, and you're going to get smoked by people who do have it. Matter of fact, the Toyota Series down on Gunnersville this past weekend was won by a guy throwing a Picasso bait ball with LiveScope. But I'm waiting on Humminbird to come out with a better version because their Mega Live sucks. I just don't like it as well as I believe Panoptics with Garmin is the way to go. I think that's better than even the live target or whatever from Lowrance or whatever, but I'll have it eventually, one way or the other. So anyway, without further ado, guys, if you guys can't get out there and lean on them, we do have a couple tournaments coming up in the area. If you guys are in my area local and you like to fish some clubs, we'll talk about it more next week. But Lewis County Lunkers, a great group of guys that I've met over the years, fishing with them and through the show. They have a good thing going on. Their very first tournament is coming up here. Let me make sure that I am telling you the truth. I believe it is March 3rd and 4th, which will be not this weekend, but next weekend. It is a club. You're going to have to pay some dues. It's not super expensive. Matter of fact, I can tell you what that is. I have the paper right here. $25 for age 17 and up, $15 for 10 to 16, free 9 and under. The cool thing about this is I think it's a cool deal. You can fish 3 in a boat. So if you have some buddies and you own a boat and they like to fish with you, they can come out and do that. It's $25 per tournament to fish per person. So it's a pretty good time. That's coming up soon. Lawrence County is going to be kicking off soon. I saw that Pedro Bass Club has a meeting coming up soon. If you guys are interested in fishing tournaments on a local level, just to get your feet wet or like fishing locally, those are 3 great clubs to get into. Lewis County Lunkers is getting bigger, but they're the smallest of the 3. Not saying that in a bad way. Sometimes I love that. I love that about the club. I know everybody in it. Everybody is all, fun, and they're there to catch fish. And if they don't catch fish, there's no him hauling around. It's just, we didn't catch them today. It's the way it happens. Maybe that's true, Charlie. I'll have to talk to Brandon and see what's up. But anywho, those 3 clubs are starting soon. We're talking about, I think maybe you're talking about an open for the Grayson tournament, and that could be true. I think Brandon did mention that. So maybe you don't have to pay entry or dues for that. Maybe you just come out and fish it. Again, $25 per person. You can fish up to 3 people out of your boat. It is what it is. So get out there, do some fishing, take a kid fishing if you can. I had some of the most fun this past year taking one of my coworkers, buddy, or one of his boy out and letting him catch his first bluegill. Somebody had to be that person for us, guys, and that's the truth. I would have never been a fisherman if somebody didn't introduce me to that, and I do believe that person that introduced me to fishing was my father. So I'm more than grateful for him to doing that, because it's not a passion, it's a way of life for me, and that it'll always be that way. So whether I'm making YouTube videos, I'm definitely going to be out there in the water, and I'm going to be fishing, and I'm going to be fishing and hanging out with you guys out there. So it's all good. If you guys can, you know what the deal is. Get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line. See y'all.